I'm just kidding. Y'all drew the short straw this week. Yeah, we'll just sing the whole time. It'll be fine. Yeah, it'll be fine. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. It's great to see you all. I knew Pastor Chris was going to be gone, and most of you knew Pastor Chris was going to be gone, so I assumed there would be at least like 2 or 3 dozen people here that I could speak to and share with. And so more than that showed up, which is awesome. And so I'm very excited. I am very excited. As Pastor Philip mentioned earlier, and we talked about and showed the videos for Vacation Bible School, it was great. We had lots and lots of volunteers, and so it was really, really good. But I also wanted to mention Summerfest from 2 Saturdays ago. How many of you volunteered and helped out with Summerfest? Raise your hand real quick. Look around the room. Like, that was awesome. Thank you very much. You guys did great. Our Summerfest, on behalf of Pastor Chris and Pastor Stephen, our Summerfest team, which is me and Pastor Philip and Nancy Smith and Angie Ratliff and Juliana Cordray, my daughter, and Austin, I'm going to say the last name wrong, Weipert? Yes, I got it right. That's the absolute first time that I got the last name right. And so we kind of put all that stuff together, and so we thank you for coming and volunteering and serving. And so I thought everything was great, and you guys were awesome, and so we are grateful for that. All right, so in 1991, when I was 16 years old, youth, that means that I'm just old. All right, I was 16 years old, and I was going to basketball camp. Now, I'm a music guy here, and so you probably assume that I cannot do anything athletic. I didn't get into music until like the end of high school and into college. So up until then, I just played sports. Played basketball, played football. I played a little bit of soccer when I was younger. Loved baseball, golf, all that kind of stuff. And so, but 16, I'm going to basketball camp. That was my favorite sport to play, and I was decent at it. And so I'm at Duke University basketball camp. All right. So if you follow college basketball, you know that their coach was Mike Krzyzewski, still is, and Coach K, as he is referred to, and he's retiring this year. That's right. This is going to be his last season. They had just won their first national championship. That spring, they won their first national championship. So here I am at basketball camp. All right, and so like it's pretty cool. Because I was in the older boys group or whatever, we were actually playing in Cameron Indoor Stadium. That's where we did all of our drills. That's where we practiced, where we played our games. We did the whole thing. And so we're in Cameron Indoor Stadium. Now, if you've ever been to basketball camp, typically there's a free throw shooting contest at some point in time during the week. Nowadays, it's probably a three-point shooting contest. But back then, when I was growing up, because I'm really old, remember, young people, we did a free throw shooting contest. Now, I could shoot. I think it's 2 weeks prior to this. I don't know how much I talked my parents into this. I was at North Carolina basketball camp. And so you're not supposed to do both, but I'm from South Carolina. We didn't have good basketball, and so I just went to both. And so at North Carolina basketball, I won the free throw shooting contest for my age group. And so I'm thinking, I'm going to pull off both in the same summer. This is going to be pretty good. So we're getting ready. It's like Thursday. We're going to have our free throw shooting contest at the end of the morning session. And so they broke all of my group or whatever, all the boys my age, the high school boys, up into 6 different groups. And they sent us around to the different goals in Cameron Indoor Stadium. Like they pushed back the bleachers, and so they were all pulled out. And so what they did was in my group, and I can't remember how many guys it was, you shot one free throw. If you made it, you kept shooting until you missed. And ultimately, out of our group, whoever made the most free throws would go on to the finals. So I'm the second to last person to shoot. The highest, when it finally gets to me, the high is 12. I got to make 12 free throws to stay in this thing. All right, so give me the ball. Make the first one. All right, here we go. Second. Third. All right, then I get in a little bit of a groove, and I just start draining them. 10, 11, 12, 13, I have the lead. But there's still one kid behind me who's going to shoot, and I don't want him to beat me, and I don't know how good he is, so I got to keep going. 13, 14, 18, 19, 20, 24, 25. Now when we get to 25, all the other groups in the gym are done. And so all of these other kids the campers have come around us to watch me shoot, including all the coaches, including Coach K. So, keep shooting. 26, yep, 27. I get to 30. By this point in time, all the coaches are just ready to go to lunch. You know, like they're just done with me at this point in time, so they're trying to make me laugh. 31, nope, 32, 33. I shoot 34. One of the coaches hits me, and I miss. All right, so I've got 33. So I've got the high in the gym at this point in time, but there's still one kid behind me. So he gets up there, and he starts going, and he starts going. He gets to 15, 16 he misses. And I'm like, yes. Here's the only problem. I hadn't won yet. I just got out of my group. It didn't matter that I had the most in the gym. I just got out of my group. So now I get to go to the finals. All right, now in the finals, we went on the main court at Cameron Indoor Stadium. This is where the Blue Devils actually play basketball. And so we're shooting free throws. Now this time, because they didn't want me to go make a bunch of free throws in a row, they did it differently. Those of us who won the 6 different goals, we had to line up around the free throw line, and you would shoot one. If you made it, you just rotated around, the next person would come shoot. So if you ever missed, you were just out. That's the way that worked. And so we go around a few times. Finally, it's just me and this other guy. He and I just go back and forth a few. We go back and forth, back and forth. He makes it, I makes it. He makes it, I get up there, shoot it. It hits the front of the rim. It hits the backboard. Hits the front of the rim, and it falls off. I know, right? And so I'm like, oh my goodness, I cannot believe that just happened. And of course, all the coaches are like, thank goodness, everybody, let's go to lunch. So we all go to lunch. My friends come up, and they're like, and I'm like all dejected and stuff. And my friends are like, man, that was awesome. I said, that was fake, man, that was awesome. It's like, you were killing it out there. I was like, yeah, but I didn't win. They go, it didn't matter. I said, man, you made 33 free throws in a row in front of all the coaches, including Coach K. So like we get to lunch, and like even like the campers that I didn't know was like, dude, are you the one who hit all the free throws? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, man, that was awesome. Coach K was watching. Coach K was watching. Coach K was watching. And then it started like building from there. They're like, man, here's what you have to understand. Every summer, the players for Duke, they would come back and train and practice and take classes and do whatever. And so like they're there all the time too. So like in the afternoons, Christian Leitner is there shooting. And Bobby Hurley and Grant Hill, if you're really old like me, you know who these players are. Sorry, young people. And so, like, they're there. They're the national champions, and they're playing this stuff. And so, like, all my friends are like, man, you are awesome. I bet Coach K is going to get you to go work with Christian Leitner on his free throw shooting. And, like, as a 16-year-old, I'm just stupid. And so I go, that probably sounds right. That makes perfect sense that I would go help Christian Leitner. And they're like, man, he's probably going to offer you a scholarship. And, like, they're just blowing smoke, and they're just I've already got a large head. And, like, it just kept expanding. And, like, it was this whole thing. So we get done with lunch. We go back in the afternoon. And typically in the afternoons, they bring in one of the former players to come speak to you. And so I think Johnny Dawkins came that afternoon. He was on their coaching staff. And terrible player, horrible player, all pro, whatever. And so he comes back. But, and like the rest of so he's going to like talk to us. And the rest of the players, they're going to scrimmage. So like we're going to get to watch the former players versus the national champions. So it's like they're there on the court. And so the entire camp is there, 200 and some campers, and Coach K gathers us all together. He's like, all right, I want to give out the prizes for the free throw shooting champions. And so they're like 2 other gyms, and they're the younger guys, and he gives them their stuff. And then we get to my age group, and he goes, all right, where's the kid that made all the free throws? We're all sitting down, and I stand up, and here it is, fellas. Here's that moment. I'm like, yes. And he looked at me, he goes, how did you miss that free throw? And in that little blank was some very colorful language that Coach K is well known for. And then he proceeded to just go on from there about how I missed that free throw using other colorful language. And I just went, I don't know, Coach. And then I just sat my rear end down as fast as I could while everybody was laughing and do whatever. And then he gave the T-shirt to whatever the kid was that won. At the time, it was a bit crushing because my head had gotten to be about that big. And I was thinking I was like hot stuff. Looking back on it, here's what Coach K gave me that day, even with all of his colorful language. He gave me a reality check that day. I was not going to play basketball for Duke University. I was not going to play for the national champions. And so this morning, maybe you need a reality check. Maybe there are some situations in your life that just haven't turned out the way that you thought they would. And what you perceived and thought would happen isn't what actually happened. Like maybe you thought that if you could just get a better paying job, like if you're just making more money, that all of your problems would go away. That's not the way that works. Or maybe you thought that, you know what, if I can just get into a relationship with this person, then life will be great. but now the relationship is completely falling apart and you don't know how to fix it. Or maybe you thought that, you know what, if I can just get married, or if I can just buy that house, or if I can just have kids, that everything would be perfect, and it's just not. Or maybe you thought that, you know what, if I become a Christian, if I follow Jesus, then it will just be smooth sailing from here on. When in reality, being a follower of Christ is harder than before you were a follower of Christ. Life is just hard, and being a follower of Christ just makes it more difficult. It's more rewarding, but it does make it more difficult. And so all these situations that we go through, all these situations that we get dragged into tell us one thing. They tell us, this is your reality. The hurt, the pain, the jealousy, the anger, the fear, the anxiety, the money shortfalls, the bankruptcy, the divorce, the brokenness, the you'll never be good enough, those are your realities. But this morning I want to tell you that those might be earthly realities, but those are not heavenly realities. Those might be temporary realities, but those are not eternal realities. Those might be horizontal, earthly realities, but they are not vertical, eternal, heavenly realities. And so this morning we're going to look at a story in the Bible of a couple of women who needed and received a vertical, heavenly reality check from Jesus. So if you would go ahead and pull out your Bibles or your phones or tablets, whatever you're looking on, it'll also be on the screen, to John chapter 11. John chapter 11. We're going to be reading 35 verses this morning. All right, I will talk fast, you listen faster. Ready? So John chapter 11, verses 1 through 35, a story that is very familiar to most of us. All right, here we go. A man named Lazarus was sick. He lived in Bethany with his sisters Mary and Martha. This is the Mary who later poured the expensive perfume on the Lord's feet and wiped them with her hair. Her brother Lazarus was sick. So the two sisters sent a message to Jesus telling him, Lord, your dear friend is very sick. But when Jesus heard about it, he said, Lazarus' sickness will not end in death. No, it happened for the glory of God, so that the Son of God will receive glory from this. So although Jesus loved Martha, Mary, and Lazarus, he stayed where he was for the next 2 days. Finally, he said to his disciples, let's go back to Judea. But his disciples objected. Rabbi, they said, only a few days ago, the people in Judea were trying to stone you. Are you going there again? Jesus replied, there are 12 hours of daylight every day. During the day, people can walk safely. They can see because they have the light of this world. But at night, there is danger of stumbling because they have no light. Then he said, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but now I will go and wake him up. The disciples said, Lord, if he is sleeping, he will soon get better. They thought Jesus meant Lazarus was simply sleeping, but Jesus meant Lazarus had died. So he told them plainly, Lazarus is dead. And for your sakes, I'm glad I wasn't there, for now you will really believe. Come, let's go see him. Thomas, nicknamed the twin, said to his fellow disciples, let's go to and die with Jesus. When Jesus arrived at Bethany, he was told that Lazarus had already been in his grave for 4 days. Bethany was only a few miles down the road from Jerusalem, and many of the people had come to console Martha and Mary in their loss. When Martha got word that Jesus was coming, she went to meet him, but Mary stayed in the house. Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had only been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that God will give you whatever you ask. Jesus told her, your brother will rise again. Yes, Martha said, he will rise when everyone else rises at the last day. Jesus told her, I am the resurrection and the life. Anyone who believes in me will live even after dying. Everyone who lives in me and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this, Martha? Yes, Lord, she told him. I have always believed you are the Messiah, the Son of God, the one who has come into the world from God. Then she returned to Mary. She called Mary aside from the mourners and told her, the teacher is here and wants to see you. So Mary immediately went out to him. Jesus had stayed outside the village at the place where Martha met him. When the people who were at the house consoling Mary saw her leave so hastily, they assumed she was going to Lazarus' grave to weep, so they followed her there. When Mary arrived and saw Jesus, she fell at his feet and said, Lord, if only you had been here, my brother would not have died. When Jesus saw her weeping and saw the other people wailing with her, a deep anger welled up within him, and he was deeply troubled. Where have you put him? He asked them. They told him, Lord, come and see. Then Jesus wept. Jesus wept. That is the shortest verse in the Bible, but is also one of the most powerful. And so, why did Jesus weep? Well, I mean, it makes sense that Jesus would weep because his good friend Lazarus is dead. Yeah. so Lazarus is dead, but like Jesus knows he's going to bring him back to life. So I don't know that he'd be crying over that. It could be that he was just very sympathetic and empathetic to those around him. There were lots of people crying. Sometimes you get around people who are crying and you just kind of cry as well. I mean, Jesus was compassionate, so maybe that was it. But I think there was something more going on here. I think that what moved him to tears was the fact that for Mary and Martha and everyone around him, this was their reality. All they knew was death and dying and mourning. All they knew was the horizontal, the earthly. But Jesus saw another reality because Jesus was and is the new reality. He is the resurrection and the life. They only saw the horizontal, but Jesus saw the vertical. He saw the heavenly reality. So let me ask you this morning, what is your Lazarus situation? In your life, what is your Lazarus situation? What in your life is dying or is dead? Let me ask you this way. What do you pray the most about? What is that one thing that you pray the most about? Because it's at the top of your prayer list because chances are that is what your Lazarus situation is. And that situation will scream at you, this is reality. And this is your reality. But I'm here today to remind you that there's a different reality. And that Jesus can give you a reality check. And that hopefully that reality check will change your perspective on how you see your life. Because a vertical, heavenly reality check can change our horizontal perspective. And so this morning, I want to give us to look at 3 different vertical, heavenly reality checks. All right, now, I've got a few visual aids to go with this. If you heard the last time I spoke, you remember the sword. I don't have a sword this time. I know, it's disappointing. It's in my office. We can all go look at it later. Yeah, I'll spin it around for you. We can do some tricks. We'll get another sword. Somebody pull out a lightsaber, and we'll fight some. And it'll be very exciting. So, but I do have some different stuff. We're going to look at some pictures, all right? So here's our first reality check. You ready? There it is. All right, is a clock. Remember that because our first reality check is this. Number 1, Jesus is always on time. Jesus is always on time. Let's look back at verses 5 and 6. All right, so Jesus just heard that Lazarus is sick. All right, and in verse 5 it says, so although Jesus loved Martha, Mary, and Lazarus, he stayed where he was for the next 2 days. That's not a natural reaction to hearing that someone that you love and somebody that's a dear friend of yours, how the previous verses talked about Lazarus, that's not how you act. Like if I got a phone call or a text message or something saying that like my wife or my kids were in a car accident or my parents or whatever, like I'm just gone. Like it could happen right now and I'm just out. Y'all can finish church without me. You know what I mean? Like I'm just gone. But like that's not what Jesus did. And not only did he not leave immediately, it says that he waited 2 days before he went. And so in your Lazarus situation, whatever it is in your life that you're going through, I'm guessing you tell God, God, I need you now. I need you now. I don't need you to I don't need you to show up in 2 days. I need you now. Fact of the matter is, I needed you like a week ago. But I need you to move and act now. And it feels like God isn't on time. And it especially feels that way like when you're trying to do what God wants you to do. You know, like you're trying to be obedient to him. You're trying to be patient. You're praying. You're doing all of those things. But he's just making you wait. And here's the thing about waiting. Sometimes I think God makes us wait so that we will appreciate it that much more when he does show up. When he does move. We have to remember God stands outside of time. God invented time. He's not bound by it. And yet we try to restrain him with it. And so he stands outside of time. And we say, God, you're not working. And he says, I've been working the whole time. You just can't see me. And that's because he stands outside of time. And here's the thing. When we wait on God, this pressure starts to build up. And when the financial miracle finally comes, when the cancer is gone, when the prodigal son or daughter returns, when the marriage is restored, that pressure finally that has been building and building and building as you've waited and waited and waited, it finally just explodes in this moment of praise. And you go, thank you, Jesus, that they're home. Thank you, Jesus, that the cancer is gone. Thank you, Jesus, that my marriage is restored. Think about this. For 400 years, between the Old Testament and the New Testament, there were 400 years. Nothing happened. It's just a wasteland. Like nothing happened. God was silent. And so when Jesus was finally born, there had been 400 years of this pressure building as the Jewish people were waiting for their Messiah. And it just kept building and building and building. And then finally he's born, and this buildup of pressure just explodes in an expression of praise. And so for those who recognized Jesus for who he was when he was born, what did they do? What did the wise men do? What did the angels do? What did the shepherds do? They all worshiped, and they all praised, because they had all been waiting a long, long time. And so you say to God, you aren't working, you're late. And he says, I am working, and you just wait until I show up and the miracle actually happens. Then there will be this huge moment of praise from that buildup of pressure. And so Jesus is always on time. So reality check number one, the clock. Jesus is always on time. And he's always on time because of this next reality check. We have another picture? Reality check number two, Jesus is always present. That's not the right kind of present, but you try to find a picture for an abstract concept like present. All right? You'll remember this one, won't you, though? All right. So Jesus is always on time, and Jesus is always present. Now, the horizontal reality that we live with, the earthly realities that we live with, would tell you that Jesus is not on time, and he is not present. He doesn't care about you, and he is completely checked out of your particular situation. All right, now let's look at verse 21. It said, Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if only you had been here, my brother would not have died. If you had been here, he wouldn't have died. You were not present. And so what the horizontal says is that God is not present and that he's not on time. But the vertical says that God is always present and is always working in his own time. And because we know that he is present, we can have confidence that he has everything under control. All right, when I was in the 7th grade, I just started a new middle school, and we didn't move or anything. They just relined the district or something, and I got moved to a different middle school. And so one day at lunch, whatever they were serving in the cafeteria was horrible. And I just wanted no part of it. And so I just decided I wasn't going to have lunch that day. So I was just outside with my friend, and I still had my lunch money in my pocket. I think I have 4 quarters. And so a friend of mine says, hey, man, you want to pitch quarters? I was like, what is pitching quarters? And he goes, well, I pitch a quarter up against the wall, you pitch a quarter up against the wall, and whoever's closest to the wall without touching the wall wins both quarters. I went, well, this sounds like an easy way to make some money. Let's play. And so we're out there, and we're playing for a couple of minutes, and then all of a sudden, this hand comes up behind me and just grabs my shoulder. And I turn around, and it's the assistant principal. And he goes, what are you two boys doing? And me not knowing any better, I go, pitching quarters. I don't know, pitching quarters. He goes, you two are gambling. I was like, no, sir, we're pitching quarters. And he proceeds to grab both of us and the change that was on the ground, and he marches us to the office. He takes us into the principal's office, where he just lets loose on us in front of the principal. And I feel, my memory, now, this is a long time ago, once again, young people, I'm old, but I feel as though, like he said, we were running like an underground casino or something at the middle school, and like we were like mafia dons or something. Like it was this whole big, huge thing. But basically, we were gambling on school property, and we were the worst people that had ever existed, and we were running an underground secret thing or whatever. And so he just letting us have it, and the principal finally says, all right, boys, go wait out in the waiting room area. And so we go out there, and it's just me and my friend, and he's sitting over here, and I'm sitting here, and we're both like, oh my goodness, this is not going to turn out well. And we can still hear them in there, and that assistant principal is just as loud as can be. And so what I didn't know was that the principal called my dad. And so my dad's on the way. Now, I'm already thinking, and I've already told you I love basketball, like it's basketball season. And I'm already thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to get suspended, and I'm not going to be able to play basketball. Like, school, whatever. But like, I'm not going to be able to play basketball. And so I was not happy about that. So all of a sudden, my dad shows up. Now, it's probably a 20-minute drive from where he was working to my school. I think he made it in 5. And so, because that's just, he has power over time, much like Jesus does, I think. And so he gets there, and he walks in, and I'm like, oh, no, this is going to be really bad. And my dad goes, all right, son, what's going on? And so I explained the situation to him. And then I don't know what's going to happen here. Like, I've got a good dad. Not everybody does, but, like, I've got a wonderful dad. Like, I wish I could be half the dad he is. So he looks at me, and he goes, did you win any money? And I was like, I was up $1. He goes, well, that sounds pretty good to me. And I wish I reacted that way with my kids, and I don't. Kids, I'm very, very sorry. Your Gus is a much better man than I am. And so he's like, all right, I'll handle this. So he goes into the principal's office, and we can't hear like actual words. We can just hear sounds and tones and things. And so I hear the principal talking a little bit. I hear my dad talking a little bit. I hear the assistant principal like just lose it, and he's getting all upset, and he's yelling and screaming and stuff. And then finally, it all calms down for a second, and my dad walks out, and he goes, boys, go back to class. And I was like, okay. I go, yes, sir. I go, what happened? He's like, I handled it. Yes, sir. So we both hop up. I look at my friend, told you. We both hop up. We walk back to class, and that was it. I tell you the story to tell you this. I was scared to death. I didn't get in trouble. Like, that's just not who I was. I didn't get in trouble growing up, and, like, I made good grades. I did all of those things. And so I'm sitting in the principal's office, and I'm scared to death that my dad's going to just lose it. My parents are going to lose it. I'm not going to play basketball. I'm not going to do that stuff. But my dad showed up, and he was calm, and he had it all together. I gained a little confidence. Not because I had done anything, but because my dad was there. That's all it took. My dad was there. And so, whatever you're going through, your dad's there. Your dad's there. And so, we have to remember that vertical reality check. Jesus, God, is always present. No matter what you're going through, he's always present. In Hebrews 13:5, it says, he will never leave you or forsake you. In Isaiah, it's prophesied that Jesus will be born. It said his name will be Emmanuel, which means God with us. In Matthew 28, Jesus said, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. Not just on Sundays, not just when everything's good, not just when you're on the mountaintop experience and everything's awesome, even when you're in the valleys, your Heavenly Father is with you. And so, when you're going through those moments, when the horizontal, when the earthly reality says you're all by yourself, the horizontal, the vertical, the vertical, the eternal, the heavenly reality from Jesus says, I'm right there with you, all the way through. All right, so let's review. Our first reality check says that Jesus is always on time. Clock. Got it? The second reality says that Jesus is always present. Present. This is the one that gets me. Our third reality check. Picture, please, sir. I don't even want to say it. Jesus is supreme. Once again, you try to find a picture that represents supreme. All right? You knew what it meant, didn't you? That's all it took. All right, verse 32, it says, when Mary arrived and saw Jesus, she fell at his feet and said, Lord, if only you had been here, my brother would not have died. Let me translate this. Mary is saying, Jesus, if you had been on time when he first got sick, if you had been present, you could have saved him. But now he's dead, and the reality is, it's over. And there's nothing you can do. Because death is more supreme than you are. See, here's the thing. Mary and Martha didn't know what we know. They didn't know what was going to happen to Jesus. They didn't know that he was going to be beaten. They didn't know that they were going to put him on a cross. They didn't know that he was going to die. certainly didn't know that he was going to rise again. Because Jesus overcame death. He overcame the grave. He defeated them. In Revelation 1:18, it says that Jesus holds the keys to death and hell. They have no power and no hold over him. And in your situation, your horizontal reality will tell you that the cancer is supreme. They tell you that the divorce is supreme. They tell you that your fear and anxiety that you suffer from are supreme. But there is nothing, not even death, that is more supreme than Jesus. All right? And you have to wonder if Jesus was kind of thinking this. Mary, Martha, you have something, someone that's dead. But I specialize in resurrection. And today, you might be thinking, I am in a dead-end job. Good news. Jesus specializes in resurrection. You might think that your marriage is dead. Good news. Jesus specializes in resurrection. You might think that your fear and anxiety are beating you down. Life is just not worth living. Good news. Jesus specializes in resurrection. You might think that the stress of your life, your job, is just killing you. Good news. Jesus specializes in resurrection. That's who he is, and that's what he does. Now, I know life is hard. It just is. Teenagers, I don't know that you all grasp this. I didn't when I was your age. Life is rough. Like, the struggle is real. Like, it is a thing. And sometimes your Lazarus situation can be overwhelming. And it feels like it's just too much to overcome. Let me encourage you this morning. Don't be consumed by your situation. Be consumed by Christ working through your situation. I'll say that again. I didn't say it, somebody else did, and I stole it. Don't be consumed by your situation. Be consumed by Christ working through your situation. Because just remember, Jesus is always on time. Jesus is always present. And Jesus is supreme. And when the Lazarus situation is done, and we've gotten all the way through it, that's when that moment, that buildup of praise, that's when it occurs. All right? All right, worship team, if you come on up. And so we're going to close by singing a song, Sea of Victory. Because I don't know what you're going through this morning. Whatever your Lazarus situation is, and we all have them, there's always something. I don't know what you're going through. The world tells you that you're going to lose. And the world tells you that everything is lost and that you have no chance